This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
Welcome to the 1905 podcast, home of the world champions, Chelsea. Each week, Joe and I bring you our unfiltered takes on the highs, the lows, and everything in between, following the Blues from Gate 13 of the Matthew Harding stand. Let's hit the notes.
Leeds United 3, Chelsea 1. That's an all-timer of complete shit. Where do I start with this? The team selection. Let's start there. I couldn't believe what I saw. I actually couldn't believe that team lineup. The back four is just criminal, and that's all on Enzo Maresca tonight. For all the praise he got at the weekend and the praise I've given him the last few weeks and stuff, it's unforgivable. That lineup is unforgivable. And just when I thought I'd seen it all, really, we start with Badiashile and Tosin, and then Trev goes to right back, where we've got two right backs on the bench. Yeah, I'm going to get my head around this in a minute. I'm just thinking out loud. Who played well? Neto for a bit. Garnacho come on and looked reasonably dangerous. A player that I think has been a little bit harshly treated as it goes. I think he's been one of our better players of late, and has either been started and come off early in games, or he's not started at all and come on late on in games. And yeah, I feel a little bit actually sad for him. Let's start at the back then, briefly. Robert Sanchez, welcome back. Robert Sanchez, you were appalling. Your kicking out was terrible. You didn't marshal your box. You didn't have any kind of composure. The amount of times you ran out and cleared a ball and kicked it straight down the middle, scuffed it down the middle to the Leeds players was too many to count. Seemed to kick your own feet a lot of the time. Yeah, terrible. Cucurella, worst performance I've seen from Cucurella in quite some time. Didn't look at it, didn't look hungry for it really. Didn't have the passion and the nastiness in some ways that you're used to seeing from him. He wasn't the worst player on the field by any means. Trev Chalobah at right back. He's a fill-in right back. He's a right back that you bring on, that you play for the last 30 minutes in a game when you're struggling. Badiashile played 45 minutes, and yeah, it's up there with one of the worst 45 minutes I've ever seen. Didn't mark anybody, couldn't pass the ball, didn't go with runners, let all the players in from free kicks and corners, set pieces. Everyone just ran off him. Was useless in possession, utterly useless. And let's just quickly go to his teammate, his all-time fantastic centre-half partner, Tosin. If you don't already know, you haven't watched the game or something, and you're thinking this is me just being mean or something, I'm not. He is one of the worst players we've ever signed. He is so bad that I almost don't want to watch Chelsea play when he plays. And you've got these two clowns just passing the ball to each other like they did against Burnley, but they got away with it against Burnley because they weren't as good as Leeds. And Leeds weren't great, but they just had more hunger and desire tonight. They just pass it to each other back and forth and go absolutely nowhere. And then when they have to pass forward, they give it away. And once again, both of them are big guys, big, strong, hench fellas, and they lose almost every single duel. They're flat-footed. They don't attack the ball. They are as bad a centre-half partnership as you're ever going to see in the Premier League. Honestly, there are teams fighting relegation that I would much rather have in the centre of the park than these two idiots. And then Tosin compounds his evening. He's already had an absolute shocker by giving away the third goal, which was diabolical. Absolutely. It's Sunday morning shite. And I am sick to the back teeth of watching him play football for my football club. I am done with him. I was done anyway. And I just hope now everyone can see what I've been saying for so many games and so many weeks and months of the season. So anyway, that's that. I can't even be bothered to talk about them two anymore. It's just pointless. They're crap and they're never going to change. And Maresca seems to keep playing them, which is just beyond me. What have we got now? Let's have a think. Enzo Fernandez, probably his worst performance in a blue shirt, but a black shirt tonight for a while. I can't remember the last time he played that badly. It was like the whole team regressed to when they first got signed, if that makes sense, Yeah, he didn't seem up for it. His energy levels were low. Maybe the Arsenal game took a bit out of him, Barcelona. Maybe that's possible. And you have to give a little bit of. I think he's been so good of late. You can have a poor game, but for me, he was just not at the races. And captain of the team, there, you want him to lead from the front. And again, he lost all his passes. He lost all his duels. He didn't get around in the Leeds midfield and boss anything. Ethan Ampadu, who is a Chelsea academy player that's come through the ranks, has been around the block a little bit, ends up at Leeds United, that's completely outplayed him tonight. I mean, absolutely was miles better than him. So you have to ask questions there. Andre Santos didn't have the game he had against Burnley. You suddenly go, well, and Santos is a great player. I'm not down on him, but he wasn't good. He didn't have the same level of performance as he did the other day. And obviously, the Moises Caicedo red card is now looking really damning because of the trip to Bournemouth coming up, who are full of energy. I mean, they're not playing great Bournemouth at the moment, but they're a very energetic team, a bit like Leeds were tonight. And it's suddenly starting to worry me what we're going to do there. Jamie Gittins was a complete and utter waste of time. You can argue that he had a role in Neto's goal that we scored. He sort of goes down the wing and he does sort of deliver a little ball to the back post. I think he may get the assist for that, but overall, his level of performance was awful. Couldn't cross it. Again, doesn't go past anybody. When he does, it's so timid. Again, he looks like the player that I mentioned a few weeks ago. That just looks like he's just sort of in shock to be out there. It's like he's won a competition when he plays. That's the best way I can describe him. It's like he's gone, wow, am I playing out here tonight? The other side, we had Esteban in the first half, who looked reasonably dangerous for the sort of not the opening minutes because we didn't have a kick for the first 5 or 10 minutes. But once he got into the game, he looked reasonably dangerous. And then he, for some reason, just decided to boot the Leeds fullback from behind. And he's actually lucky. I think he's lucky to get away with a yellow card there because he just completely clumps the Leeds defender whilst he's running and he makes no attempt to play the ball. If he'd have got sent off, we had no complaints for that. I actually think the referee was quite lenient on that one, to be honest with you. But yeah, so he got hooked at half time. João Pedro. Oh, dear me. Where do we start with João Pedro? You were terrible. Walked around, sulked, strolled, never looked like scoring a goal. He made a decent pass in the first half for the lap. Other than that, I can't really remember anything that he did that was any good. Bit worried about João Pedro. He looks like a player that just thinks it's a bit like Richarlison in the sense that maybe that he's a player that looks like it should all just happen for him naturally and he shouldn't have to run for the ball too much because I'm a Brazilian and I'm really good at football. But unfortunately, if you haven't got any desire or heart or passion, then nothing's going to come to you for free. And he had such a great start in a blue shirt that you couldn't see him, not scoring a goal. He's now sort of reverted to type with what most Chelsea strikers do is they don't score goals. And even though he's not playing as number 9 tonight, he looked way off the pace. And I think he's been way off the pace in quite a few games lately. So hugely disappointed with him. He was dreadful. Liam Delap played pretty poorly, I would say. He had moments where you thought, well, that was quite good. But again, he's a bit lumbering, a bit of a nuisance, but actually more of a nuisance to us than he is to the other team. He pushes people around, but he doesn't do it in a very subtle way. He's like 2 arms out and tries to clothesline people like a wrestler. He grabs people like physically by the shoulders or by the waist and throws them to the floor. 1 or 2 moments where he got in behind in the first half and he sort of pulled the ball back, but never to anybody, just pulling it back into an area where he wasn't even looking up. He just sort of kicked it blind. And yeah, he hasn't really had a great start on a blue shirt. I mean, the great game of Barcelona and the Burnley win and the Arsenal result, which wasn't a win, by the way, it was only a draw. I don't want to be overboard and be down on the team too much, because I want to be down on the team because I'm so frustrated. I'm so annoyed with how we played tonight. But I'm trying to keep a lid on it a little bit. I'll just quickly, briefly go through the other players before I forget. Cole Palmer had one chance, which it looked easier at first glance. It wasn't as easy on second glance, but was pretty pointless. Never got in the game, never looked fit. You know, he's obviously coming back from a long injury, so he's never going to be perfect in that sense, but just no real energy in him. And we didn't really get in the ball, and when we did, no one was playing well enough to keep it, so it was a waste of time. And of course, sort of last but not least, Malo Gusto. I mean, that was up there with one of his worst all-time performances, a bit like Enzo Fernandez, reverting to type with the way he came on. He gave the ball away so much. It actually made me laugh, because there was, in the 95th minute, and you might go, well, it doesn't matter because there's only a minute to go. We had throw-in in our own half, right down in the corner flag, and he just threw this ball 20 yards straight to a Leeds player. And there wasn't a Chelsea player in sight of this player, and I thought to myself, what the fuck are you doing? I am so shocked at how poorly we've played. It's made me quite sad tonight. I'll be honest with you. I said at the weekend, it didn't feel like false hope. I think if we play Fofana and we play Achampong, or maybe Fofana, Chalobah, and put Achampong at right back, keep the midfield as it is. Obviously, you have to change Caicedo, of course, but just maybe keep the things that have been going really well for you in the last few weeks and build that momentum. It might have been a different story tonight, but we played the two most horrific centre-backs of all time together yet again, and guess what? They're terrible. They don't mark anybody, and we lose the game. My son was just in disbelief. He literally said to me at half time, "Can I go to bed? This is so boring." And I was like, I might come with you, because I'm not interested in this crap. Yeah, sorry, down voice note, not great, not brilliant. You don't want to hear it. I know that, but sometimes you've got to go through the pain, haven't you? Not a lot else to say on the game, really. Maresca, you're a clown tonight. Absolute clown. Poor, beyond belief. Work to do. You've got Bournemouth away next. That is not going to be easy, like I said earlier on. They're going to come at you full guns blazing. They would have seen that game tonight. Leeds came at us with a bit of pace and power, played two up top, went for us, and we just weren't prepared for it, which amazes me that a team that have lost their last four games, I think they've lost 5 of their last 6, I want to say, Leeds, they just look so up for it. And we look flat and tired and non-existent and not bothered, like we didn't want to be there. And a dismal performance, absolutely. We got what we deserved. We couldn't hold the ball. Out of possession, we were poor. In possession, we were poor. So many mistakes, passing it around aimlessly at the back, time after time after time. And just one of those games that you just have to go, what do we do with that? I don't know. Just terrible. And I think just lastly, I know we're not going to win the league. I mean, I'm well aware of that now. We could have gone 3 points behind Arsenal the weekend. We're now 12 behind them. So it kind of gives you an idea of what happened there. Oh, sorry, 9, not 12. Sorry, forgive me. Yeah, a real kind of reminder that when Chelsea don't fancy it, that's the sort of result you get. And yeah, we've been blown away by a team in the relegation zone. And it's not for the first time we've done this. And it's not the first time we've given a poor team a head start straight away in the game. And then we don't build on anything. We don't get into the game. And we end up kind of just letting it drift away. And I said at the weekend, don't let the first half drift, and what did we do? I mean, I don't think we had a shot at goal for the first 35 minutes. Then we had a shot near the end with the lap. And it was powder puff towards the goalkeeper. And other than that, I can't really remember another chance in the first half that we had that was any good. And why do we keep doing this? Why do we keep on shooting ourselves in the foot when we get a build a head of steam and we just kind of go, no, we're going to make 5 changes, 5 unnecessary changes, in my opinion, and cause ourselves to have another result like this. So we'll see what happens against Bournemouth the weekend. But over to you, Chris, and I'll speak to you later.
Well, I'm recording my voice note on a miserable Thursday morning. It's absolutely pissing down with rain, and it kind of feels appropriate, doesn't it, for this note and for the performance last night. I had to leave it to this morning to record this, because I think, Joe, you might win the prize this season for the saddest sounding, I guess, depressed voice note of the season, and completely understandable based on the performance. Just the word that just keeps coming into my head is just so disappointing. It's kind of the bang opposite of the feeling after Sunday, wasn't it? Where, we kept talking about how proud we were. I've seen so many other things, like Jason Cunley talking about, like, just felt really proud leaving Stamford Bridge on Sunday. And this was just bang opposite, wasn't it? Just everything about the performance from the first minute. I got to start with Maresca, I think. It's the place to start. Someone messaged me a couple of days ago, a Liverpool fan, an old friend of mine, haven't spoken to in a while, and just a quick chat about football. And he said, "What do you guys think of Maresca?" And my reply to him was, "Yeah, he's growing on us. I think a lot of Chelsea fans like him." And I said, "But he's definitely learning on the job. Like, we can see it. He's clearly learning and improving, and we're seeing that before our eyes." And that was last night, wasn't it? You literally saw a manager, as soon as the lineup came out, a lot of us as Chelsea fans looked at it and go, "You've made a mistake there." And where I think he has played it completely wrong last night is not understanding that Leeds versus Chelsea is different. It's a different type of game to 19th in the league versus 3rd. But we know the history in the tie. We know that Chelsea's record at Leeds is very bad, actually, really bad. He'll have known that Leeds have got an amazing home record. I think they've only lost 1 home game in the last 18 months. But Leeds away on a cold, wet, windy December night, an 8:15 kickoff, late, under the lights. The atmosphere is going to be like raucous. The manager's under pressure. The fans, the players are going to be bang up for it. You just know, looking at that it's not the place to go and make 5 changes. We expected a couple of changes. I said that in the preview note. But the second the team sheet dropped and you saw that back 4, as Joe has already talked about the centre-backs in detail, so I won't add a huge amount, but as soon as the team sheet dropped, you were worried. You just thought, it's got Brentford feeling about it, hasn't it, with a centre-back at right back, putting too many players in together who haven't got much chemistry together, don't play together a lot. There's you got Tosin and Badiashile, who I think alongside the right player have done okay. Again, maybe not so much Tosin, but Badiashile has this season. But you're looking at them together thinking that just fills you with all sorts of worry. And immediately you saw why. Joe messaged me, I'm sure you know what we say, Joe, on WhatsApp before the game, saying, if Tosin has a shocker here, I can't be held responsible for what I say on the podcast. I think you're almost, no, you were pretty damning on it. I was say you were calm, but in terms of what you said, but no, I think you were bang on. And it's one of those things, isn't it? I feel like every manager in Chelsea history, and virtually every manager everywhere, seems to have one, what's the word I'm looking for, like weak spot, or this weird thing they do that no one else can quite see. And Maresca's insistence and still trusting Tosin feels like his one. Yes, he can occasionally pull out a decent performance. Burnley away, he did all right. But time and time again, he looks like by far, just doesn't look good enough for Chelsea. Let's keep it simple. And yet Maresca keeps playing him, keeps bringing him on in games. And it's so frustrating, so frustrating. John Terry came out. I saw some quotes from him this morning and basically kind of echoed what I just said there, really, in terms of you can't go to Leeds away as a Chelsea player and think you can play at 80%. you have to earn the right to play. You've got to be on it from the start. And we just weren't. Like, no one played well. Certainly none of the players who started. But Neto and Garnacho did okay, didn't they? Second half off the bench. But other than that, it was really, really poor. And on this one, I think Maresca has to take a lot of the stick for it. I think you just 5 changes in a game like that, it's too many. It's too many. There would have been players in what they call it, the red zone now, that were tired. I think Reece James would have been a risk. We thought about that. Gusto maybe, but you've got to keep some semblance of continuity. Again, I talked about him being, a rookie manager learning on the job. As Chelsea fans, we're not really used to it. Certainly in the last 20 years, we're used to managers coming in, schooled winners who just have done it before, know what they're doing, tend to make, might make big decisions, but they're doing it based on years of history. The only comparison I can really make is probably Frank. When Lampard first came in, he'd obviously hadn't only had a year at Derby, so quite similar actually to Maresca in terms of background. And you could see him learning on the job. And as Chelsea fans, at times we were frustrated. At times, obviously, with it being Frank, we were a bit more supportive and maybe had a little bit more patience than we do for Maresca at times. But the truth is, we're seeing him literally make mistakes and then learn from them. Like the example recently being terrible decisions at Man United when we went down to 10 men and then against Brighton, but then learning from that and being much better against Arsenal. And I think he'll learn from last night. I hope he will, in terms of making that many changes for a game like that. I think there are times to rotate. There are times to do it. I think if it's home to Leeds, at the Bridge, that lineup would have probably been fine. The context of the game really matters, and yeah, it just wasn't the time to go and do that. A little couple of details about the game that were frustrating. We lauded, and he's been lauded actually everywhere for this, and rightly so, the approach against Arsenal on set pieces, which I saw some great video breakdowns of what Joe had talked about on the podcast in the last episode about Chelsea pushing 3 players up to create space in the box, allow Sanchez to come and claim balls. And it worked so well against Arsenal, the best in the league on set pieces. Against Leeds, for some ungodknown reason, we threw that out the window, packed the 6-yard box, and they basically looked like scoring every single time they got a set piece. I just couldn't fathom that. It just made no sense to me why you would change something that's worked well for you. Just make that a signature, make it a thing. Just really, really strange. Really strange in that respect. And in terms of performances, I don't know what else there is. So I think Joey did a really good summary of how players on the pitch did on the night. It's just one of those. They've got to dust themselves down. I don't want to be too, we don't want to be too up and down the pod, as Joe says. That's not what we're about. What it does mean is that you look at the upcoming games now against Bournemouth and Everton and think, really, Chelsea have got to go and try and get 6 points. I think I'd kind of said a couple of days ago, I think 7 points from this set of 3 would be fine and just keeps us on track. And now I think you got to go and get 6. And Bournemouth will be tricky. And it's that thing, isn't it? Suddenly teams will look at that and they kind of be licking their lips and thinking, okay, we can get at Chelsea. Let's learn from what Leeds have done. Let's get on the front foot, be aggressive, and they're gettable. And I think we would have started to build a little bit of fear factor again after the performances against Barcelona and Arsenal. But maybe we've gone back a step there. It definitely feels like 1 step forward, 2 steps back for me in that respect. But this is where we're at. I'll be honest, I'm so disappointed, but I'm not massively surprised. I still don't quite trust this group yet. I felt like we might have one of these performances in us, and certainly when I saw the lineup, I did. But we've got to dust ourselves down and go again. The truth of it is, it's 2 defeats in the last 13 games. It's 2-13. There have been some really good wins along the way. We were unbeaten in November. We're on a good run. This is a massive blip. It's very concerning. But if Chelsea can very quickly arrest it and show that December won't be one of those terrible Decembers, a little bit like we had last year, but it was January, wasn't it, when we kind of collapsed. We need to make sure we've learned from that and that doesn't happen, and respond against Bournemouth, which we'll talk about shortly. But very disappointing. And I'm absolutely soaked through having done this voice note in the rain. And to be honest, that feels just about right for the general mood this morning. Over to you, Joe.
Good afternoon on an absolutely shocking Thursday, and I can only apologise for my voice note last night. I just felt gutted. I felt a bit humiliated. I felt like the team gave up. I felt like the team didn't care. I felt cheated. I think I'm a person that doesn't mind if my team loses. And I don't want last night's voice note to come across like that Chelsea shouldn't lose a game of football, right? I'm not like that. What I can't bear is when my team don't bother. And they gave up. They didn't try. From the first moment in the game, I thought to myself, this is going to be shit. And then as the game wore on, you kind of go, right, come on, let's think. They might get it together, or they might get 2 quick goals. This game might turn around. And everything that I saw last night just showed me they didn't have any kind of balls. And that's the best way for it. And I'm a little bit sick of the young card. I've said that before a couple of times, where I don't mind people saying they're a young team, and we are a young team to some degree, but there is a lot of experience in there. You know, you've got Enzo Fernandez has won a World Cup. He's also won some trophies for Chelsea now, but he's got a hell of a lot of experience playing for Chelsea, Benfica and Argentina. You've got Cucurella, he's a European Championship winner with Spain. And also, again, he's 27. He's he has some good Premier League experience at Brighton. He'd been at Barcelona when he was a kid. I think it was Espanyol he was at. Now he's at Chelsea. Again, he's a seasoned professional. And you can go through the team, and there are some players in there that you kind of go, I expect more of you. But for some reason, you always know that Chelsea are going to throw this type of performance in with this bunch of players. It's just a fact now. But what I will say is this. If Chelsea play a more acceptable team last night, which includes maybe a Reece James, a Fofana, Chalobah in his right position, I don't think we get that type of performance. Why is it that Saliba and Gabriel can play week in, week out for their team and not be stressed, not be under any kind of injury concern, not have any, and people are going to laugh at that now because they're out injured currently, but it wasn't through going through the red zone, as Chris just mentioned there. Why can certain teams play their players all the way through the season, but Chelsea can't? It doesn't make any sense to me. And I get it, there's a lot of football being played at the moment and all of that. But if you're a professional football player and you want to win something and you want to be part of a team, you couldn't drag me out of that side, however I was feeling. It feels like now, and players are managed by, the physiotherapists and all that sort of stuff where, you're told, this guy looks like he's in the red zone and all that garbage. I don't care what anybody says. Surely the players know their own bodies, okay? And if Fofana was ready to play last night, let's play him. I'd be going to myself, but we want to win something. And the best way to win something is for me to play. We've all played Sunday morning football, right? I think everybody can say that. Most people that listen to this will probably say we've all played some kind of football, right? However the standard is. You know in yourself, if you get 2 players ring up in the morning who are key players for your Sunday team and they say they can't play this weekend, you can guarantee 9 or 10 other people will be like, oh no, gutted, what are we going to do now? And I can tell you now, that must be happening in this Chelsea dressing room. Because if the reaction to Sanchez after Tosin did that cock up with a pass, or non-pass as it were, for the 3rd goal, shows you everything you need to know. And if Rob Sanchez is calling you out for making mistakes, then you know you've got a real problem. And it's like the team are so much weaker for it. But yet we persistently keep making the same judgment calls on these players. And Chris, you've mentioned 2 times now that Tosin had a pretty good game against Burnley. Burnley didn't do anything in that game. They didn't create a fucking thing in that game for him to have a bad game. Yet he still didn't play that well in the first half. for sure. And I'm not having that. He did. I'm sorry. He just didn't have a lot to do. Any other game I've seen him play this season, and towards back into last season as well, he has been muck, complete filth. And his partner, Badir Shield, I don't think has been as bad, except for last night. He was woeful. I mean, beyond bad. But why do we keep like messing around with the team consistently in the key positions? Centre half, goalkeeper, central midfield, striker, right through that spine. We piss around with the team over and over again. And we are going to be forever 3rd, 4th, 5th if we keep continuing to do this. It's a fact. We are not going to win the league by rotating the goalkeeper, the 2 centre-backs, the striker, every 5 minutes. You're in, you're out, you're in, you're out. And I get it, it's a squad game. But there are moments in games where you have to go, moments in seasons, I should say, where you have to go, do you know what? You're playing tonight regardless. You'll get your rest in 2 weeks. We've got Cardiff coming up. You're not playing against Cardiff. You know, that sort of thing. Are we suggesting now that we're going to go to Newcastle away and play Tosin and Badir Shield? It all just makes no sense to me. There has to come a point, surely, where the players have to stand up and say, no, I'm playing. Caicedo plays every week when he's fit. He goes on international duty and pretty much plays every single week. But yet, Fofana can't. And Trev has to move positions. And yet, I know that Reece James has gone through some injury woes and they are looking after him. And I appreciate that they're looking after him. And I don't want to come across as two-faced by saying that. But you've got Gusto. So Gusto plays. He's a natural right-back who can play that inverted role. He's been much better of late. He had a poor game last night, but much better of late. And throwing players on at half-time to constantly try and win the game because you've made 3, 4, 5, 6 bad decisions at the start is unacceptable. It happens too many times. Chelsea make 3 substitutions, I tell you what, almost every other week because he goes, the first 11 players I picked wasn't the right set of players. And he might argue that he's given players rest and all the rest of it. But I'm sorry. It's got to the point in the season where you're actually in a fight for something. And we did this last year where we started to mess around with the team on a weekly basis and we dropped further and further down the league table. And I don't want to be that team that's constantly fighting around 4, 5, 6 positions, hoping to get the top 4. And I realise they're a young team, blah, 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 blah. But there has to come a point in the players' minds where they kind of go, no, I'm playing. And until we find that, we're going to always forever be in this mucky muck dogfight for 3rd, 4th, 5th. And it's just really frustrating because I really believe actually in Enzo Maresca and I really believe in what Chelsea are doing at times. But we constantly shoot ourselves in the foot by making too many changes and then trying to rescue it inside 45 minutes. I said on the last podcast, I know I mentioned this last night as well, but I mentioned the last podcast about us giving away the first 35, 40 minutes and hoping in the second half that we can come back and win the game. It's the Premier League. You don't get really, second chances. Leeds proved that last night. And I think more Chelsea fans would have respect for Maresca if he started a strong team and then took players off. Because you could argue that you could be losing 1-0 with your strongest team and you don't want to bring on these other players because you don't think they're as good. But you'd rather go with a mentality of let's go as strong as possible and hopefully we're a goal or 2 up and we can bring off those defenders. We can bring off those midfield players if they need to for the last 15, 20 minutes and rest them that way, opposed to bringing them on and hoping they salvage the game for you. I think that's something we need to really look at. And yeah, I'm just so annoyed with how we played last night. But I probably have to look forward to Bournemouth. Bournemouth aren't in great form themselves. I mean, we are. Chris mentioned in his voice that we haven't lost too many games of late, and I realise that. That's why I wanted to go and win that Leeds game because I felt like it was the easier of the games we've got coming up. Particularly away from home, Bournemouth and Newcastle, Atlanta are going to be tough. Even Cardiff's going to be tough, I think, just because it'll be on a midweek game under the lights, etc. As we know, with Leeds United, it can be difficult. Our record at Bournemouth is mixed at best. We've had some good wins there, and we've had some absolutely massive defeats to Bournemouth. And I really don't know what we're going to get on Saturday. I'm hoping to God that they watched that game or they've been told about that game last night in no uncertain terms that was unacceptable. The performance level was unacceptable. And they come out on the weekend and give us a really good, solid performance. I'm just annoyed with this particular game, the Leeds game that's just gone. I'm just so frustrated. Giving up is just not in my vocabulary. And I just feel that they let us down last night. They owe us a performance. But believe me, Iriola's teams, they will come for us and they will know their record against us. And yes, we beat them there last year. We were very fortunate to beat Bournemouth last year 1-0. We didn't deserve the win at all. They battered us pretty much for the entire game, but we nicked a goal late on through Christopher Nkunku of all players. What we thought we had in a player there, but sadly that didn't quite pan out. I just hope that we put a team out that is more respectable. There's no Caicedo still, as we know. There has to be a reaction. It's simple. It's unacceptable now to go into another game and play that poorly. And even if they don't win at the weekend, I want to see the players fight for the shirt. I didn't see that last night. I want to see players playing their correct positions. I don't want to see Chalobah play it right back. I don't want to see that ever again unless there's an injury crisis. There's no need for him to do this. And will he change the team? It's possible. Does Hato come to the side? Maybe. Cucurella might need a rest. He has been playing a lot of football of late. He's about the only one alongside Caicedo that probably does need a rest, I would say. Everybody else is fine. I don't envisage Cole Palmer starting again. I think he'll come on a sub like he did last night. I think they won't want to risk him. Then there's bigger fish to fry down the road, so they won't want to rush him straight back just because it's Bournemouth and they didn't play well. I think he'll be a player that comes on as a sub. I'd like to see Garnacho start from the beginning and give him a real run. Like, give him 90 minutes because I think he's a very good player. Gittins has to come out for sure. It's possible Reece James comes back for this game. And does he sit alongside André Santos and we push Enzo Fernandez forward? That's probably what I would do if Cole Palmer's not available. João Pedro has to come out for me because I can't watch him at the moment at all. He's been dismal. And I think that Pedro Neto has to come back into the team. Okay, they probably didn't want to use him yesterday. Again, he was probably a player that was on the edge in the red zone. But I think, like I said earlier on, at this stage of the season now, you need to get some kind of results and you don't want to drop further and further down the table and go on a run like he did last year because that was just unacceptable, that February run that we had, which was so poor. Yeah, there's a lot of work for Chelsea to do at the weekend. A lot for Maresca to ponder. There's no hiding place in the Premier League, and if you want to mess around with your team as often as he does, you will eventually get found out, and we got found out big time last night. But I don't want to end the podcast on a sour note. I'm fuming about last night. I won't get over it until we play again, quite frankly. But will I be worrying to go on Saturday? You bet I will. You know, it's football is that funny thing, isn't it? You can be so peed off, you can be so frustrated, you can have a load of things that you want to say and get off your chest, but whatever happens, we will be back and watch them at the weekend, and that's what football does to you. So fingers crossed that we can put some things right. But most of all, I want to see a performance and I want to see a reaction from the players because that will show me, it will go a long way to show me that they're not basically weak-minded. And a good performance with a solid win against Bournemouth will be amazing. I'd predicted that we don't win this game in my early predictions, so that doesn't bear well. But fingers crossed they prove me wrong and they can go and get 3 points at the weekend. Chris, over to you, mate, and hopefully you can end the podcast on a slightly more positive note.
Oh, it is funny, isn't it? I think all Chelsea fans have been a little bit hit around the face with the result last night. I think we're all suffering a bit. I think it's knocked our confidence a bit. Kind of brought up some of those old questions and thoughts that we probably had for a while. Like, we still need a centre back. You know, that was the one that keeps coming up. You know, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's been in conversations about do Chelsea move in January for Mark Gay and other sort of things. I don't think we will. I think all the news is that Chelsea aren't going to do anything in January. But when you have a result like that, what you really, I think, realise is the drop in performance from our first 11, first 12 or 13, I guess now, that very, very top 11 that we have out to the B squad, as they were last season, can be pretty staggering, particularly defensively. And I'm kind of copying what Fahad, who's been on the podcast before, and I were talking about earlier, a little conversation. We worked together, so obviously our first call of the day started with the talk about the Chelsea game. And he made a point. He said, you know what, this Chelsea team now, on its day, as we've seen, can match up to just about anyone in the world. And when you think about the results against PSG, Barcelona, Arsenal, Liverpool in recent months, you kind of go, yeah, when we're on it, we are really good. The problem is that drop in performance when you bring in, I'm going to have to say his name, sorry, Tosin. And I know we've picked on him so much this season, but I saw a tweet earlier with the stats in the last 10 games, I think it is, where Tosin has played versus when he hasn't. And let's just say, without boring you with the details, it's kind of staggering actually that he is still getting game time above other players. And I put Josh Achimpong in that conversation as well. The numbers don't lie, the facts don't lie. Tosin makes Chelsea defensively worse. We're more likely to lose games with him in the team. And I think I was still struggling to get the word of what I mean with what Maresca's, but it's a weak point. It's a blind spot. That's probably what I mean. A blind spot on Tosin that he sees something that the rest of us don't. And yeah, it needs to stop. It really does. And I'm not putting it all on him. I don't think that's fair. I think that no one played well. We've said that. But picking the right team on Saturday against Bournemouth is where it has to start. And we have to pick up a win. I was looking at Bournemouth's sort of recent form ahead of doing this note. And unfortunately, which sounds weird to say, they were kind of similar to Leeds in that Leeds had been in an awful run before they played us at home. Bournemouth very much the same. They've not won in 5 and they've lost 4 out of those 5. Struggling for form after a brilliant start to the season. Obviously, we'll be up against our old mate Petrovic in goal. Oh, what's betting on him having an absolute worldie? He'll certainly be bang up for the game, won't he? And suddenly your confidence just gets hit a little bit, doesn't it? You kind of get nervous going into that, thinking, what are you going to see? I'd quite like to see Palmer start. I know what you're saying, Joe. I think there's probably a doubt. He didn't look 100% sharp, and will they, like you say, want to protect him a little bit? But I think I'd be inclined to say, can you do an hour? And can we start with you and then bring you off? Again, on this idea of like, we need a response from Chelsea. The fans would expect it. Maresca, you would hope, would be giving them all sorts and be expecting it. So I want to see us start with as strong a team as possible. And again, I'll do it quickly, but I think the team actually should be an easy pick this week, most of it at least, because I think it's probably similar to Arsenal in the fact that you're going Sanchez in goal. I think it will be Gusto right back. You get Fofana and Chalobah back at centre back, Cucurella left back, and I think Reece James probably comes into midfield alongside Enzo, you'd think, and then I'd have Palmer in at number 10. Probably Neto on the right, Garnacho on the left. And I think there's a good point that you made in your first note, Joe, about Garnacho. He has been a little bit unlucky, actually, the way he's been treated at times, because he is direct and he's always a threat. So I'd start him. At Bournemouth. Use Estevao as that super sub that he's been so effective as so often this season. You know, you're expecting to get him on for half an hour, but that's absolutely fine. Start Palmer, and then who plays up front? Let's face it, neither of those two boys up top have been brilliant. Do you throw in a Mark Gui? You probably don't, but I think he'd be tempted to. And maybe it sends out a message to Delap and João Pedro that if your performances aren't top dollar, which they haven't been, then you don't play. Do I think he'll do it? Probably not. What would I do? I think I'd go Delap. I think I'd go Delap on the basis that if I'm playing Palmer, I mean, actually Palmer and João Pedro have got a good link up as well, but I think I might go Delap and hope that Palmer and him can link up well. It's a really important game. The joke that I get abuse for a lot from my friends is that I said so many times that the game was season defining last season on the podcast. That was my kind of go-to phrase far too often. I'm not going to say it's season defining, don't worry. But it is an important game. It's an important game for Chelsea to respond. If we don't win, let's say we draw, suddenly you look at those last 3 games, potential of 9 points, and we've got 2. It could be worse, it could be 1. And then actually all of the momentum that you had built up very, very quickly goes. So Chelsea need to arrest that slide very quickly, put together a performance, do it for us as fans, do it for Maresca, do it for Joe, so we get a cheerier note on Sunday. And here's hoping that we are back and that every little thing is going to be all right. See you next time. Those were the Chelsea notes for this week. If you enjoyed the podcast, do us a favour and share it with a fellow Blue. And we'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a review wherever you're listening. Wherever you may be, stay carefree, and remember, every little thing's gonna be all right.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.